quite in the belly. I was in the outer rim, which controlled the belly in a way.
Right.
But one day I'm going through all these grants and contracts to see if they're being properly handled. You know, are they getting their reports in on time? This, you know, just cut and dried stuff. That's what my boss sent me up to do, huh? And so I start going through these things. You know, they're computer printouts, and I'm looking at the abstracts as they're telling me what these things are for. And I run across this one in Lansing, Michigan, and it says that they're working with first graders. And they're pre and post testing first graders on their values and their feelings about their parents and whether they fight at home and all this stuff. And I thought, oh,
this is the 80s we're talking.
Yeah, and so I thought, well, this sounds sort of like what I was going through as a local school board member. Mm-hmm. And I always knew that I knew the National Diffusion Network was national. I knew that it came right out of the office that I was in later under Reagan. I had always followed John Goodlad, who's probably the major change agent in the world. You know, who's the unbelievable quotes that I have of Goodlad, that, you know, the student of the future and how we can change his behavior, and that's the goal, etc. And my husband used to say, when I have nightmares, you know, he'd say, you're having a nightmare about John Goodlad, because I'd read all of his horrible books that had nothing to do with education, had only to do with the complete changing of our children's characters and personality for a global system.
Wow.
And, oh yeah, really bad.
More of like the hive mind, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So, I looked in the corner and I saw this box that said the Goodlad Study. And I thought, ooh, big box, this big.
Oh my God.
And I thought, oh, heck with
my
typewriter ribbon, you know. I hit the mother lode, and I got in there, and all of these foundations were funding it, right? And there were 5 books that came out of it. It said in there that 4 books, I guess, that had been commissioned. One was Schooling for a Global Age. The other was the communities in their schools, and that's all community ed, all this stuff we hear about community and community councils and community ed in China and you know, okay, arts in the school, how to use art to brainwash, and John Goodlad's A Place Called School. Well, the global education one was just unbelievable. In fact.
But that was the mother lode.
Yes, that was the mother lode for the whole mess that we're in right now. And so then Ed Curran, he gets so upset with everything that's going on in there that he writes a letter to the president, to Reagan, and recommending that his own office, the National Institute of Education, be abolished. And he has a code to get through to the president because he's a director of a very important office. He was far higher up than I was.
Right.
And so Reagan is out of the country at that time, and what did they do? It was either Dick Darman or someone in the White House with Reagan who sent that letter over to T.H. Bell, who was the biggest skunk. And that's a compliment that ever. He was out of Utah.
You don't want to talk bad about skunks, though, right?
Really bad, real socialist. So anyway, Bell gets the letter, and he fires him, Ed Curran. And Reagan comes back and lets it stand.
Wow.
You know, so then I realized what I was dealing with, because before I went to Washington, I was very pro-Reagan, and that California group, UROC out there, United Republicans of California, in Southern California, they knew what Reagan was all about as governor. And when he was running for governor, they wrote this little book called Here's the Rest of Him.
Huh.
And UROC is still around. You know, people like Alan Stang know about that. And so they sent me this book. This is before I went into the department. And I started reading, and I got mad. Okay, folks, see? I'm just like you, or you're just like me. I am the same way. I get very angry when these people gave me this book telling me things that I did not want to believe about Ronald Reagan.
Right.
And so I got mad at them, I got mad at the book, I put the book back in my library, and off I went to Washington. And then I found out
that they were right.
Yes. And then Project BEST came along. Better Education Skills Through Technology. And this teacher who was meant to be dealing with that project, she was a Reagan appointee, and one day I was talking to her at her desk, and I noticed this thing on the side, and I said, "What's up?" And she said, "Oh, that's that technology initiative." And I said, "Well, what are you doing with it?" And she said, "Well, I haven't really had time to look at it." And I said, "Could I take a look at it?" So she gave me the whole thing, and I started going through it, and I saw that this was going to control the curriculum on the computer throughout the country, every state. And in it, it said, one document, this is what really got me. What we can control and manipulate.
Huh.
That's at the state level, right?
At the state level.
And local. So they give you the money, and then it says right there what they can control. They can, the task force, the name of the people on them, the curriculum, the this, that. And having been a local school board member, I just thought that's it. And this has got to be, I've got to leak this document, and I did, and I leaked it. This Better Education Skills Through Technology that happened to be funded by partially, no, the NEA was getting money from Reagan. The National Education Association, it was the NEA. The money went to the NEA, an affiliate of the NEA, the American Educational Computer and Technology or something, AECT. And so I leaked it to Human Events, but only after I'd gotten everything out of there, out of the office, because I knew I was going to get canned. And then one day, I was sitting in my office, and there was this glass between my office and my boss's. I was back in the main office again. And he was talking to the head of the technology initiative, who I knew quite well, Arthur Melmud. And Arthur really liked me because I had fooled him. He really thought I was one of them. I really had fooled him. And so I could see my boss saying, pointing her finger through the glass. Gee, he was reading Human Events. He was reading the article that I gave it to Human Events, right? He was reading the cover story on Project BEST. And he pointed to Arthur, and I thought, oh, well, that's it, And so I just got up, and I took my purse. Everything was at home anyway, and I got out. I went home, and then the phone rang, and his secretary, who was one of us, a really good girl, she said, "Charlotte, I hope you got everything out of here because you're canned and you can't come back." And I said, "I'm okay. I've got everything." So then I wrote Reagan a long letter that I know he received because this journalist, John Lofton, who I knew down there, after I hadn't gotten an answer for about a month, he called Reagan's office, and the secretary said, "Oh yeah, he's got it right on. It's right on his desk, and he's made notes all over it, and he's sending it on to Ed Meese." And in that letter, I put that letter on my website. It's on Deliberate Dumbing Down. You can read it. And I told him everything that was going on, and even at that point, I just couldn't believe that the guy could be that bad. And I said, "This is certainly not. I cannot believe that if you could see what is going on in this building, that you wouldn't have a heart attack. You've got to do something about this. This place has got to go. Or it has got to have happened what Ed Coring wanted. At least get rid of the heart of it, the rot at the National Institute of Education. Get rid of that, the research arm." And I never had an answer. I said, "I want a response so that I can tell everybody that the president got my letter, that the president knows what is going on in the U.S. Department of Ed. That's all. All he has to do is say, 'Dear Mrs. ISERBYT or Charlotte or whatever, thank you so much for your letter regarding the U.S. Department of Ed and what is going on there. Sincerely, Ronald Reagan.'" He doesn't have to say anything else.